in history. In the late 1950s, a new pharmaceutical was being introduced called thalidomide, and it was a miracle cure for morning sickness for pregnant women. Doctors and patients loved it. It was marketed as being safe, and it really seemed like a medical miracle for a little while. But by 1961, thalidomide was pulled off of shelves worldwide. Why, you ask? Because thousands of babies were being born with severe malformations. Some babies were born with tiny arms and legs or missing limbs.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG Reels, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all my supporters, man, who's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man, commenting down below, and most importantly, hitting that thumbs up button on each and every single video I drop. You guys are helping grow the community. I greatly appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Y'all know what we do. Let's seek the truth.
Facts you probably didn't know. A licking machine is what made the discovery that it took 364 licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. No smoking signs on airplanes only became mandatory after a fire on a flight from Brazil to Paris caused the deaths of everyone on board except one person due to smoke inhalation. Bob Ross's hair was naturally straight, but he got a perm to save money on haircuts while he was touring the United States penniless in his mobile home. He actually hated his curly hair, but he kept it because it became iconic. The British scientist who helped develop the breathalyzer was caught drunk driving. Children of South Naknek, Alaska are flown daily to attend school, riding the United States' only flying school bus. 85% of the world's canned pumpkin is processed in one plant in Morton, Illinois, aka the pumpkin capital of the world. Japan has one vending machine for every 30 people. How animals see the world.
Night vision. Okay.
These are the most disturbing things found in new houses. Part 1. Up first, this couple bought a new house when they suddenly discovered a secret hidden room underneath the staircase. This is absolutely disturbing, and I wonder what the previous owner did in this room. Next up, this man just bought a new house when he realized the past owner left their mirror. He then decided to take it off and discovered something truly disturbing behind it. The previous owner had a camera hidden behind it. I wonder if he was spying on people in his house when he lived there, or if he wants to spy on the new people who moved in. Either way, it's very disturbing. Finally, this man's friend bought a new house when he suddenly moved the carpet and found the exact spot where the previous owner died. This is very creepy, especially because that's a body stain.
I'm out as soon as I see that, man. I couldn't stay there.
Archaeologists have just discovered the first pharaoh's tomb in more than 100 years. Thutmose II is the last undiscovered king of Egypt's 18th dynasty. And now that they've astonishingly found his tomb, it's become the most significant archaeological discovery since 1922, which is when they found Tutankhamun's tomb. And although Thutmose's mummy was missing, they discovered artifacts with inscriptions of his name, and it also appears the tomb to be flooded. So now they believe that more of its contents, and his mummy of course, were moved to a new undiscovered crypt nearby. The director of the excavation said the possible existence of a second and most likely intact tomb of Thutmose II is now an astonishing possibility. The three fast...
That's actually insane to think about, man. We still finding the pharaoh's tombs and things like that, man. I saw a video a couple of days ago how Mr. Beast was exploring the pyramids in Egypt. I didn't even know that was possible. He just like, if you have enough money, man, you can buy it out. Man, wild to think about.
Fastest animals in the world. Only 0.1% can name them all, can you? Number 3, the cheetah. Now this cat is the real deal when it comes to speed. It has this amazing ability to accelerate super fast, allowing it to reach these crazy speeds almost instantly. Just picture this. It can run as fast as 62 miles per hour or 100 kilometers per hour. Making it one of the fastest animals on land. Now imagine, you're running as fast as a car on a highway. Number 2. Next up, we've got the black marlin. This fish is known for its crazy speed underwater. It can reach up to about 80.78 miles per hour, or 130 kilometers per hour. It's pretty much like an underwater missile. But before we move on to the top spot, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and favorite this video. Number 1. And now, in the top spot, we have the peregrine falcon. This bird's got razor-sharp wings and a hunting method that will literally take your breath away. It can hit speeds over 198.84 miles per hour,
Damn.
or 320 kilometers per hour when it's diving down to catch its prey. It's the fastest predator in the animal kingdom, the king of the skies. It's as if Superman himself turned into a bird. Now imagine, you're moving as fast as these creatures, sprinting at a pace that makes your head spin, or swimming through the ocean's depths with the grace of a ballet dancer. What would you do with speed like that? Let me know in the comments. And remember, don't forget to subscribe.
Become the Flash. Simple. Oh, what the hell, man? That's actually amazing to think about. They can hit those speeds. I didn't think a bird would be the fastest, I guess, predator known to man, but the more you know. That's why I watch these clips with you guys, man. It always expands my knowledge base. I'm thankful
These
for
are
that.
some of the largest sinkholes in the world. First is the Morning Glory spillway. This sinkhole didn't actually form naturally, but it was created by engineers for a special purpose. To ensure that the dam wouldn't overflow during rainfall, they created this sinkhole to stop flooding. It's a 200-foot pit, meaning anyone who falls in has no chance of getting out. Next is the Great Blue Hole, which is located in Belize. As beautiful as this hole looks from above, it's actually incredibly dangerous and 407 feet deep. Many incredibly dangerous shark species and several dead bodies have been discovered inside. Finally, the Guatemala sinkhole. In 2010, a giant hole formed in the middle of the city, which engulfed a 3-story factory building and 5 people. Now, there are 3 major reasons why this sinkhole appeared. Flooding in Guatemala, the eruption of a volcano 25 miles away from the city, and the presence of limestone under the Earth's crust. The sinkhole was 300 feet deep, but surprisingly only resulted in the death of 1 person.
People who survived unsurvivable things. Endumiso Mona. This man fought with a leopard and killed it with his own bare hand.
Legend.
Rommel Rome. He survived 18 lethal injections. Tomu Yamaguchi. He survived 2 atomic bombs. Anatoly Bagorsky stuck his head in a particle accelerator. Jacob Miller. He got shot between the eyes and survived. Dick Williams survived the Titanic. Julianne Kopke. She survived a plane crash. Aaron Ralston survived after 5 days of being trapped in a canyon. Vesna Valovic. She survived a 33,000-foot fall when her plane exploded.
This was the real life Fortnite. In the 1960s, a man named Hugh Jazz was a famous billionaire who owned a private island. He would hire men to take over 100 people from their homes at night while they were sleeping. And when they all woke up, he would make them compete in a game. But the contestants didn't know what they were in for. Before I tell you the rest of the story, I advise you to check if your phone is being spied on by clicking here, then on here, and if you see this act, delete it immediately. He would pile them up in a huge air balloon, and they were forced to jump out with parachutes and land on the island. There he would force them to unalive each other till the last person was standing. The winner received a lifetime supply of riches and would have to sign an NDA saying they would never speak of this again. People who refused to play were permanently eliminated by Hugh Jazz. He would stay in an underground bunker with the world's richest elites watching this on a monitor screen, like it was an everyday sport. They would laugh and make bets on who would win or who would lose first. He did this survival challenge around 50 times before one contestant managed to make a raft and escape the island. 15 days later, when the contestant finally got to land, he told authorities about the famous Hugh Jazz. Eventually, authorities came to the island and found him in a bunker with 10 other famous and rich individuals. They were all arrested for their crimes, and all the survivors on the island were rescued. But eventually, Hugh Jazz escaped and was broken out of prison, never to be seen again.
This
Squid
is one of
Games.
the scariest urban legends I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. So there's this stretch of road in Turkey along the D100, and the urban legend says that if your car breaks down on the side of this road, do not get out of the car. Because according to the locals, one night, a few people got into an accident, and when they got out of their cars, they all melted on the road. Well, this is coming from an episode I just did on urban legends that ended up being true, but it turns out there is a reason that they all spread this legend around. In 1965, a passenger bus was traveling down this road when it crashed into a big truck carrying a bunch of water, and it caused water to spill out all over the road. The passengers got out of the bus because they were okay, but when their feet touched the pavement, their shoes started to melt, and it felt like their feet were on fire. And that's because the truck was not carrying water, it was carrying nitric acid, an acid that dissolves skin on contact. As they were on the ground crawling away from the accident, the acid was melting the skin off of their bones. And the worst part in all of this is that a group of 12 people saw a bunch of water that had collected in a drainage ditch and thought they should jump into it to protect themselves. But really, they jumped into a pool of undiluted acid and dissolved within moments. If you want to hear more urban legends and the even scarier stories they're based on, check out this episode of the Heart Starts Pounding podcast, and this is part of a whole series that we do.
That did have my heart pounding, bro. Imagine thinking there's water, you stepping into acid. That's like the worst fate I've heard, man, watching these clips with you guys. Those urban legends, man, they be based on truth, so you always got...
I want to talk about how Count Orlok doesn't really look like a classic vampire, because there's a lot of historical context to these looks. So first off, in the recent Nosferatu, the director had no interest in just recreating the Count Orlok look. Instead, he went back to old vampire folklore from New England, back when people thought vampires were just regular dead people that could possess people from the grave. So he wanted Count Orlok to look like a real Romanian nobleman that had died. And that's different from the original Count Orlok, who literally was supposed to look like a rat. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, it's not really more complicated than that. The original came out in 1922 and is really just a metaphor for the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu killed 50 million people between 1918 and 1920 and was brought back on warships from people returning home after World War I. And they play on the fear of that plague in both movies. There's lots of ships and lots and lots and lots of rats. Rats, of course, have become a symbol of the plague because it's believed that they transported the bubonic plague around. But what's the most interesting in this, I think, is that the original Nosferatu came out 4 years after the Spanish flu started, and our Nosferatu came out 4 years after COVID.
Extinct animals caught on camera.
Coincidence? I think not.
Pterodactyl. Look carefully.
I don't think that's a pterodactyl. Hold up. I'm about to revise my statement. Similarities, I see. What do you guys think? Is that cap?
3 normal things in one country but shocking to the rest of the world. Part 12. Number 3. In Germany, the deposit system for bottles and cans actively encourages recycling. When you buy a drink, you pay a small additional sum, called Pfand, which is refunded when you return the empty bottle or can to a collection point. This initiative, aimed at promoting recycling and reducing waste, allows consumers to earn a bit of money in return. Number 2. In Japan, the tradition of Valentine's Day is somewhat different from many other countries. On February 14th, it is usually the women who give chocolates to men, whether it's romantic love, work colleagues, or friends. Men are not supposed to give gifts on Valentine's Day. However, they have their turn a month later, on March 14th, during White Day, where they are expected to give a gift in return to those who gave them chocolates. Number 1.
Okay.
Public toilets in America are often surprising to foreigners due to the lack of privacy they offer. Stalls are designed with large gaps between the doors and frames, allowing a partial view inside. Additionally, the doors are usually shorter, sometimes exposing users' legs. While this design is typical in the US, it can shock those who are used to complete privacy in public toilets.
Like me, man. I don't think... I need complete privacy. Everywhere, bro. Imagine I'm about to say somebody coming from a different country coming over seeing freaking bathrooms. They like, what y'all got going on here?
Cursed games you should never play. Part 12.
Talk about
Bloody
it.
Mary. To play this game, you'll need an indoor setting. This place needs to be able to block any and all light from coming into it. Then, gather your supplies. You will need a candle, some sort of lighter, and a mirror. Then, wait until nightfall. Once that hits, enter your room alone. Set up the mirror if you need to. Light the candle and then place it in front of the mirror. Now, start repeating the name Bloody Mary. With each repetition, continue to add volume to your voice. Do this until you hit 13 repetitions. Once you get to number 13, make sure you're not in arm's reach of the mirror. She might scream at you, but you can handle that, you'll be fine. But if she's able to grab you from the mirror, you're probably not okay. If you survive this experience, immediately extinguish the candle. Turn on the lights and leave the room. Once you're fully completed, make sure you never use this mirror again.
I never play those types of games. I'm not putting that energy in my life at all.
Hey man, foxes are cute. And if you want them to stay that way, do not watch this video. Fun fact, the wild carnivore with the most real estate on Earth is the red fox. If you live anywhere that isn't a penguin playground, chances are there's a fox in your area. And there's two reasons. Number one, they can adapt to basically everything. And two, they'll eat literally anything. Anything. Okay, story time. My favorite fox is the Arctic fox. They're like the Bear Grylls of canines. They'll eat anything, even if it means shadowing a polar bear to pick its leftovers, even if it means eating literal leftovers. Yeah, forbidden fertilizer. Now the problem is the polar bear playbook revolves around sea ice to hunt. Less sea ice means less polar prey, means less leftover for the ice puppy. Last chance to scroll, wouldn't blame you. So there was this documentary where this Arctic fox couldn't find any food, and eventually her HP hit 0 and she became a wuss. Yeah, she was way past tense, and that's when another Arctic fox found her. Remember, I said anything. So fox number 2 started eating expired fox number 1. Except that got the attention of fox number 3, and with calories hard to come by, you wasn't going. They started to squabble, and like a sick joke, that attracted even more famished foxes. So I'm over here watching 7 or 8 aggressive Q-tips fighting over the canine corpse of their own kind. It gets worse, because there's something I didn't tell you. Foxes live everywhere, and in some places red foxes overlap with Arctic foxes. Except the reds are much bigger. So eventually came a BBC, big black canine melanistic red fox that ran through the Arctics like Philly through Mahomes' O-line. So that's how I watched a giant black fox eating an Arctic fox while the other Arctics could only watch in stark jealousy. Hey, sometimes that's how nature goes. The more you know.
I did not know about foxes. They eat their own.
This girl killed her mum so that she wouldn't find out she got kicked out of school. On the 3rd of March 2020, police were called to do a welfare check at a property in Ohio. Brenda Powell lived in the house, the 50-year-old mother of Sydney Powell. Brenda had actually been on the phone with Sydney's former school. This was the University of Mount Union. Now, during the telephone call, a staff member heard repeated thuds and screaming, so authorities were alerted. Inside, they found Brenda Powell in a serious condition. She was rushed to hospital but died from her injuries. Brenda had been unaware that her 19-year-old daughter had been kicked out of the school. During her telephone conversation, Brenda was struck in the head and then stabbed nearly 30 times by Sydney. However, when police investigated the murder, Sydney tried to claim that there had been a break-in. She told them that there had been a noise and her mum had instructed her to run away. She said she heard screaming, and when she ran back in, her mum was on the floor. Investigators saw through her lies and she eventually changed her story. At her trial, she pled not guilty by reason of insanity. Her defense argued that Sydney was suffering from undiagnosed schizophrenia. They stated that she killed while experiencing a psychotic episode. However, it is rare for people with schizophrenia to act violently. It was concluded that Sydney had been exaggerating her symptoms. She's recently been found guilty and is awaiting sentencing.
Here are some crazy things happening.
That's because you're afraid of the truth.
An unidentified man stole 3 amputated legs from a Bucharest hospital. 1 is still missing. An elementary school student went permanently blind after eating only a diet of chicken nuggets. Japanese elderly women are choosing to live in Japan's largest prison for women because they feel lonely and are struggling, and it has good benefits. The Walgreens CEO announced that their anti-theft program has backfired because, quote, when you lock things up, you also don't sell as much of them. Police charged a woman with a definitely not drugs tote bag with trafficking meth. A man who mistakenly threw away his hard drive with Bitcoin on it in 2013 that's now worth $750 million is now trying to work with investors to buy the landfill that the trash went to because a court case dismissed his ability to have access to it. He says he can't work a 9-to-5 job and think about this every day and would rather just figure this out and dig through trash every day of his life if he has to.
Would you guys do that for $750 million, man? digging through trash trying to find your treasure. I don't know who could go through that. Would it be worth it in the end? Because you might not find it. It's wasting time and energy.
Breaking news, y'all. The Menendez brothers were attacked in prison, and I'm not sure what extent, but they said that they were brutally attacked in prison today. So, yeah, this news just came out after they received the information that their case is not going to be going back to trial. So that means that they're not going to get the chance to plead their case in front of the judge and possibly get resentenced or released early. This was in talks basically late last year, and yeah, so basically right after this, today, they get attacked in prison. Now, they said it was a very brutal attack, and they are in critical condition. Y'all, I don't know exactly what happened or what went down or who had it against them to the point where they got attacked in prison, but this is crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like at the end of the day, it's weird that the judge won't even go take this back to trial, because they said the judge said that the reason why they won't take this to trial is because they feel like it is a bunch of lies and it can make way for more lies, and it's all fabricated. But it was proven that the father actually did SA them, so I don't understand how this is lies.
Shocking tech facts you won't believe. Facebook's algorithms can predict and detect breakups before they happen. The world's most powerful supercomputer is faster than 6 million PS5s combined. There's more computers than humans on Earth. Every minute, 500 plus hours of video are uploaded to YouTube. 4K videos can chew through your storage fast. That's why we all need a way to compress and convert files without losing quality. I use Wondershare UniConverter for this. This all-in-one tool converts, compresses and enhances videos in just a few clicks. Just grab a video, run it through the compressor and boom, instant result. Or choose any image you want, run it through the image enhancer, the results are amazing. UniConverter can convert files with over 1,000 different file formats. MP4 to MOV to MKV. Anything you need with quick conversion. Ready to level up your content? Download Wondershare UniConverter and create with no limits. The link is in my bio.
Clips you need to see before you die. Part 8. Crocodiles in Indonesia have learned to fake drowning to lure humans into the water. To survive in the jungle, it's crucial to stay alert every moment. He was 100% focused.
So got leap ability.
Follow for more.
Talked about the Jaws ride animatronic many times, but we're going to talk about it again because I found some new pictures and I want to traumatize y'all as much as I'm traumatized. Every day I'm depressed, I just remind myself, hey, at least I'm not in the water with a Jaws ride animatronic, and I feel all better. So the one in Japan is about 4 times as big as the one in America. Let me just show you the comparison on this. Like, look how big that is in comparison to the people. Look how massive that huge, gigantic animatronic is in that water. Okay, another one for scale. This thing is massive. And that's the one we got in America. Like, bro's goofy looking. Granted, this was only, like, one of the versions. But, like, all of the animatronics that were in America were so much smaller than the ones in Japan. Like this. Oh, God. This with that wire. Sickening. Sickening. And my worst nightmare. Here is a lovely picture that made me almost have a panic attack about 5 minutes ago of all of these wires, hydraulics, and everything that is typically under the water. And then there goes Bruce's head up at the top, the animatronic that pops, this part pops it out of the water. I hate everything about this. And tomorrow we're going to talk about the Jaws movie, and there's even more terrifying pictures from the Jaws movies filming them. This is gross. Watch this video and let me know how you're feeling, and would you be able to go on the Jaws ride? Because I think they only still have it in Japan. I rode it when it was in Los Angeles in 2009, and it traumatized me, but I could not do the one in Japan. Watch this.
This looks lifelike, man.
This was one of the biggest medical disasters in history. In the late 1950s, a new pharmaceutical was being introduced called thalidomide, and it was a miracle cure for morning sickness for pregnant women. Doctors and patients loved it. It was marketed as being safe, and it really seemed like a medical miracle for a little while. But by 1961, thalidomide was pulled off of shelves worldwide. Why, you ask? because thousands of babies were being born with severe malformations. Some babies were born with tiny arms and legs or missing limbs. Some were born blind, deaf, or with internal organ damage, and some babies didn't survive at all. It turns out the earlier the mother took it in her pregnancy, the more severe the damage was. People were obviously devastated, and this caused a lot of public panic, and a lot happened subsequently. But first, let's talk about how this happened. And it turns out it comes down to one oversight. And that was that thalidomide was never tested on pregnant animals. At the time, drug testing wasn't nearly as regulated as it was today. And there just wasn't a regulation for companies to test how a medicine is affecting a developing embryo. It was just kind of assumed to be safe. So when thalidomide finally was tested on pregnant animals, the results were the same. The animals were giving birth to babies with same malformations. This tragedy transformed many people's lives, and it also transformed the way medicine is developed. The field of toxicology was born because of this tragedy. The world started to demand rigorous testing of medicine before it could reach human patients. Most of the people affected were in the UK. It never made it to the United States, and it's actually all thanks to the efforts of this woman. This is Frances Oldham Kelsey, the official in charge of the FDA review of the medicine thalidomide. And she refused to approve the drug until she saw evidence that it wasn't harmful to pregnant women, which ultimately it was. So thanks to this woman's due diligence, she saved countless lives, and she actually received an award from President Kennedy. There's also a corporate greed component to this story, because initially the victims received no compensation from the manufacturers of thalidomide.
Sick.
It took years of legal battles and public outrage to finally make things right. And in 1973, a settlement was reached and the Thalidomide Trust was established to support survivors. If we're to learn anything from the thalidomide tragedy, it's that we have to learn from history so that we don't make the same mistakes again, and that this wasn't just a failure of science, it was a failure of responsibility.
Here are some fun facts you probably didn't know. The Mona Lisa was stolen in 1911 for 2 whole years, and the museum thought it was out for photography the entire time. Great white sharks are showing up consistently at a mid-ocean location that we call the White Shark Cafe, for reasons we don't fully understand yet. China has over 3,000 miles of tunnels underground to transport intercontinental ballistic missiles. Inspired by how shipwrecks always create new reefs at the bottom of the ocean, New York City is now retiring subway cars in the ocean, dumping them to provide for new reefs. In Cluj, Romania, you can pay for your bus ticket by doing 20 squats. Meanwhile, elderly and disabled ride the bus for free, always. Bubble wrap was initially invented to be a wallpaper. Armadillos give birth to 4 identical quadruplets every time there's a birth. Genericide is the term we created when a trademark is lost because it becomes a generic name for that item. For example, escalator lost its rights when it became the general term for moving stairs.
Disturbing
Wow,
kid toys that were banned. Evil stick. Hidden behind the foilet, show a demonic young girl. Time stars. There was a hidden message inside the Thai Monstars that says turn off the TV, odding time with Elmo. The Elmo toy was saying, who wants to die? Cuddle and coo doll. The doll was saying, Islam is the light. Cabbage Patch Kids.
Classic.
The doll almost ripped out a girl's hair.
How?
Sky dancers. It flew in random, unpredictable directions, which injured children and adults.
Having coffee injected into your veins could be one of the worst ways to die. This is another worse deaths imaginable. Viewer discretion is advised. This story happened in Brazil back in 2012 to an 80-year-old patient. One of her nurses was a trainee. She had just started, I think it was 3 or 4 days prior to working with her. This patient had 2 separate bags. One of them was for food, the other one was for medicine. The 2 bags are really close to one another, and the nurse would later say it's really easy to get them confused. I don't know the circumstances behind this, but the patient, I guess, was getting coffee and milk, I believe, was supposed to be injected into the feeding portion of, the tubes. But the inexperienced nurse instead injected the coffee and the milk directly into the bag where the medicine was supposed to go. Almost immediately, the patient began to react. She appeared to be in some kind of trauma. She was having a very loud reaction to this. Unfortunately, once this happens, it's pretty much already too late. It took about 3 to 4 hours for this patient to die from what happened. The coffee and milk would run straight to, according to the doctors who worked on her, it went straight to her heart and to her lungs. And basically it filled up her lungs and it caused her to have the effect of drowning. Not to mention it was actually a hot liquid. So slowly this patient drowned because of this. And she passed away after being in some significant pain and discomfort. I know that the 23-year-old nurse was charged with involuntary manslaughter. However, I do not know the outcome as to what happened to her. But unfortunately, because of her inexperience, this poor woman suffered for a couple of hours.
Man, I need only experienced nursing doctors around me. Don't put the rookie on me, man. Because stuff like that will happen. Jam by coffee. Insane to think about.
I've never really been the one to believe in orbs, but someone explained this to me. Gabby Petito's family went to the location in Wyoming where her life was taken, and they all took a photo, and there was this thing that came up in the photo. Her family's convinced that that's her presence, and a lot of people also think the same thing. But I've never seen an orb that big. Others have had a different explanation for this, saying that it's the reflection of the sun with the lens, and that's why it created this thing. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
She took the life of her 3-year-old son so he wouldn't tell anyone about her affair. On April 28th of 2023, Dhyan Singh held an inauguration party for his new plastic store in India. Among the guests was Dhyan's neighbor Uday Indolia. Dhyan had no idea that his wife Jyoti Rathore was having an affair with Uday. While people at the party were busy socializing, Uday snuck off with Jyoti and they went to the terrace, and that is when they got physical with each other. But Jyoti had froze when she saw her 3-year-old son Jatin because he had followed her to the terrace. He had just witnessed everything that was going on with his mother and Uday. At this point, Jyoti is freaking out and she needs to come up with something, so she grabs her son and throws him off of the terrace, which was 2 floors. Jatin suffered serious head injuries and died the next day at the hospital. Jyoti's next plan was to lie to her husband and tell him that their son had fell off of the terrace because he had slipped. Because of this, she ended up having nightmares and hallucinations, and she ended up confessing to her husband. Dhyan recorded a video and audio of her confession and handed it over to police, and Jyoti and Uday were both arrested.
A cannibalistic family whose home is hiding in a darker secret. Let's talk about what might be one of the most terrifying games of the year. Cannibal Abduction. Full game playthrough on my channel. This is your worst nightmare. Your car stalls out deep in the American countryside and you're abducted by a family of cannibals. Explore the house, solve puzzles, and try to figure out exactly what's going on here. You know the family eats human flesh, but wait a minute, what was that noise? One of the family members knows you're here, and they are coming for you. Cannibal Abduction is an incredibly tense horror game that feels like the perfect slasher movie, and the twist ending was incredible and totally unexpected. Don't miss this one.
Any of the seekers, you guys play any scary games? Y'all know I'm not really tapped into the movies, man, but I might try that out. I don't know if I can survive that though. Cannibal Abduction.
This is why you need to look behind you before taking a selfie.
The innocence of this picture makes what happened even more haunting. 3 friends stand on railway tracks, hoping to capture the passing train on the tracks beside them. They took a selfie and were really excited to get a close proximity to the train. The wind was even blowing in their hair. But do you see that light? That is another approaching train. Now the girls couldn't hear that train on the track because they were so close to the other tracks and the other train. However, it was 12 seconds from when that photo was taken before the train made impact. Now the train
train driver reportedly tried to blare his horn, but they must have assumed it was another train. 2 of the girls died on the spot and 1 later in hospital. For more 7 Sins Crime, hit that plus button.
You gotta be where your surroundings, man. I'll never be on that train track trying to get a selfie. It ain't worth it, man. It's really not. Glad we're watching these clips, man. We learning, as always.
There's a really strange missing persons case happening right now out of Utah. Let's talk about it. This is 21-year-old Elizabeth Green. She was last seen walking to work along a dirt road in Callio, Utah, which is an extremely remote area in northern Snake Valley. Like, there really isn't much out there, and the area she went missing is roughly 3 hours from any major city. Elizabeth had just started a new job at a remote ranch, and she was walking there that day, but never made it, and it's almost like she vanished into thin air. She was reported missing to the police later that day, and they began looking for her right away. Authorities have searched the area around her home and the ranch that she was going to work at, including the route that she would have taken to get there, but no trace of Elizabeth has been found. Police searched the ranch, which has not been publicly named, just 1 day after Elizabeth was reported missing, but according to them, they didn't find anything suspicious. The rancher said that she never made it to the ranch that day and that he had no contact with her, so it's left authorities wondering what truly happened to her that day. Police have tried pinging her phone, but they aren't able to get a connection, and they've searched all of her electronic devices, but they've all turned up nothing. There's been no activity on her social media accounts since that day either. Her mom thinks that Elizabeth could have possibly been picked up that day, but she just doesn't know by who. There's also a possibility that she arranged to have someone pick her up, but they didn't show, which could have led to Elizabeth trying to walk through the remote desert by herself. According to her family, she does suffer from some mental health issues and has run away before, but no matter what, she's always stayed in contact with her family and she's always come back within a day. She would never just up and leave like this. Just based on the circumstances, police believe that she's in immediate danger. Like I mentioned before, Callio is extremely remote and so far away from any major city, so the fact that she just mysteriously disappeared and left behind no trace in a matter of hours is just terrifying. It's now been over a month and Elizabeth is still missing. With the summer weather coming up, we need to find out what really happened to her that day. These are some of her characteristics and what she was last seen wearing. If you have any information about this case, please contact the number on the screen.
Just vanishing.
Now, this next video was submitted to me by Sienna G, who received the following clip from her aunt. In the footage, Sienna's aunt is filming her son, who appears to be roaming around inside a room. Although initially thinking that her aunt had sent her a cute video of her little cousin, Sienna soon felt that something was off about the clip. It wasn't obvious at first, but upon watching it the second time, she instantly got chills. The clip, as it turns out, was sent to Sienna because something strange was captured. Have a look.
Let's check it out.
Let me take out the stuff like this. Check it out.
Everything seemed normal so far. We saw that.
Come on.
As Sienna's aunt films her son, she catches something passing by in front of the camera, but it's really quick when it happens. At exactly 17 seconds into the video, a dark silhouette emerges from the left side of the screen before making its way across the room. By slowing the footage, one can see that something distinct is moving past the camera, but it's also when you slow the footage that the video gets even more creepy. Looking at the figure frame by frame, you'll notice that it has a full torso, and also what looks like an arm. However, one thing is missing: its head.
True.
Despite moving pretty fast, we can still make out what looks like a body, but nowhere in sight do we see a head. This fact alone is what spooked Sienna and her aunt upon looking closely at the clip. If no one else had been inside the room, then what was this? A definitive answer to this question has yet to be given.
So here are my personal reasonings why
What was
ghosts
that?
are a made-up fairy tale and that we need to stop believing them as a culture. Number one, little convenient that it's only at night that we see shit, right? You never see a ghost in the daytime. Darkness has this interesting quality about it that doesn't let you see. So, you know, you're not going to be able to see well. So people are looking in the darkness and their eyes are trying to make sense of anything and they think they saw something. If you stare at the darkness long enough, you're going to see something. There's a Twilight Zone episode about it. There's also a thing called pareidolia, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's a psychological phenomenon that makes you think you see faces and shit. Human beings evolved to understand facial recognition and, you know, subtle cues to communicate, so we're really good at that, but we see faces and shit that's not actually there a lot of the time. Another thing, a lot of people say that children and dogs have a little bit more connection to the spiritual world. I just find it convenient that animals and babies seem to have more of a spiritual connection to that side of the world. Maybe because they can't fucking talk and they're notably stupid. You know why your dog was staring at the edge of the bed and growling? Because it is stupid. Because it has 3 thoughts in total it can have, and it can't watch TV, so it's bored. You know why your baby is staring in the corner and laughing? Because it doesn't know what the fucking human body can do yet. It's got the user manual and it's hitting random buttons and just trying shit out. Number 3, ghosts are most seen at spots that are spooky or deserted. What are the odds? It's always a spooky cabin in the woods or an empty mental asylum. How come it's never like, you know, DMV? If the argument is that there's bad energy there because something horrible happened, how come there's no ghosts at the beach? People drown at the beach every day. Why are there no ghosts at the beach? Also, how come it's always a human ghost? The majority of things that have died on Earth are not human. They're like ants and shit. How come I don't have rat ghosts running through my apartment?
Was he spitting? I mean, some of the stuff he was it was making sense. But, you know, everybody's gonna have their own beliefs, man. People believe in the paranormal. There have been some instances where you can't explain, so.
There's a really strange missing persons case happening right now out of Utah. Let's talk about it. This is 21-year-old Elizabeth Green. She was last seen walking to work along a dirt road in Callio, Utah, which is an extremely remote area in northern Snake Valley. Like, there really isn't much out there, and the area she went missing is roughly 3 hours from any major city. Elizabeth had just started a new job at a remote ranch, and she was walking there that day, but never made it, and it's almost like she vanished into thin air. She was reported missing to the police later that day, and they began looking for her right away. Authorities have searched the area around her home and the ranch that she was going to work at, including the route that she would have taken to get there, but no trace of Elizabeth has been found. Police searched the ranch, which has not been publicly named, just 1 day after Elizabeth was reported missing, but according to them, they didn't find anything suspicious. The rancher said that she never made it to the ranch that day and that he had no contact with her, so it's left authorities wondering what truly happened to her that day. Police have tried pinging her phone, but they aren't able to get a connection, and they've searched all of her electronic devices, but they've all turned up nothing. There's been no activity on her social media accounts since that day either. Her mom thinks that Elizabeth could have possibly been picked up that day, but she just doesn't know by who. There's also a possibility that she arranged to have someone pick her up, but they didn't show, which could have led to Elizabeth trying to walk through the remote desert by herself. According to her family, she does suffer from some mental health issues and has run away before, but no matter what, she's always stayed in contact with her family and she's always come back within a day. She would never just up and leave like this. Just based on the circumstances, police believe that she's in immediate danger. Like I mentioned before, Callio is extremely remote and so far away from any major city, so the fact that she just mysteriously disappeared and left behind no trace in a matter of hours is just terrifying. It's now been over a month and Elizabeth is still missing. With the summer weather coming up, we need to find out what really happened to her that day. These are some of her characteristics and what she was last seen wearing. If you have any information about this case, please contact the number on the screen.
Hopefully they found her.
This is what things look like under a microscope. Now you're probably wondering what this thing is that looks like a bunch of happy faces. Well, this might shock you, but that's actually grass. Next up we have a worm, and they don't look like they can hurt anybody, right? Well, once you see it underneath a magnifying glass, you might think different. And have you ever wondered what salt and pepper look like? Well, here it is. Why does it look like rocks and marshmallows? Now let's take a look at what a tiny ant looks like under a microscope. Here it is. Now that has to be the most terrifying one yet. Next up we have a human eye. Here's what it looks like under the microscope.
It's so detailed. Yeah, freaking things in a microscope, man. It really shows you, bro, how things really come together. But the ant was probably the most terrifying one. I didn't even know it could look like that.
How accurate police sketches are? Well, this sketch was actually pulled from someone's subconscious during hypnotherapy, so let's find out. In 1960, 4 teens were camping in Finland, and the last thing that this guy remembers was falling asleep. When he woke up, he was in the hospital, and he learned that he and his friends were attacked through the tent and that none of his friends had survived. The only thing was that teen, Nils Gustafsson, didn't remember a thing after falling asleep that night. And honestly, that caused a lot of people to think he was responsible for his friends' deaths. So Nils goes to hypnotherapy to see if he can recall anything from that night, and during hypnosis, he starts remembering a face.
This is what he described to the hypnotherapist as the person who attacked him and his friends that night. And while this is happening, this man gets admitted to the hospital. He has splotches of red all over his clothes, and the nurses said it looked like he had been running through the woods. And I'm sure you probably see it, but this caused him to be the lead suspect. I cover the whole story this week on the podcast, which has so many twists and turns, including what this guy has to do with the story, so make sure you check it out.
What is a true crime case that just haunts you? This one is absolutely chilling. This is Susan Harrison. She was a mother and a wife, and she was described as an incredibly lovely person. In 1982, she met a man named Jim Harrison from her husband. They met because of her husband, and by 1988, they had both divorced their spouses and they got married. From the very beginning, this relationship was tumultuous to say the very least. Susan is not around to defend herself, but according to Jim, Susan would often become manic and she would start yelling and screaming and throwing things. These fights weren't just verbal altercations, they were often physical altercations. Now, Jim does say that he never physically did anything to Susan, that he only defended himself. This is Jim, and he is 100% adamant that he did not hurt Susan. But on the other hand, people who knew Susan said that this just wasn't like her, that they had never seen this side of her, especially her two sons, Nick and John. Susan's youngest son, Nick, remembers a night in particular where John was away looking at colleges and he was staying the night with Susan and Jim. And he says that he woke up at about 2 a.m. and heard them fighting. And then Susan ran into his room and said that Jim was hurting her. Nick decided he didn't want to stay, so he called John, his older brother's girlfriend, and asked if she would come pick him up. And she agreed to do that and told him to wait outside for her. He went outside to wait, but the altercation soon spilled out into the yard, and that's where he saw Jim physically hurting Susan. Nick says that he stepped in between Jim and said that he needed to stop hurting his mother. So he saw these physical altercations and saw that Jim was often the aggressor. But again, this is all alleged. This cycle would go on and off, with Susan leaving and trying to get restraining orders and then going back to Jim, as we often see in these kinds of relationships. But eventually it seemed as if Susan was stepping away from Jim, and she even started her own lampshade business called Shady Lady. But again, she would go back and forth and back and forth, and finally her boys told her that she could either live with Jim, but they would be out, or she could choose the boys, and of course she chose her children. On August 5th of 1994, Nick, Susan's youngest son, was going to Susan's house. They were going to visit relatives in Boston the next day, so he came the night before. When he arrived at Susan's house, he realized that the door was open and her keys were on the kitchen table, but there was nobody home. Nick waited in Susan's house until about 2 a.m, but Susan never came home. So the next day, he called John and let him know what was going on, and they called the police. We'll get into the investigation in part 2. Give me a couple of minutes to get it up. It should be down in the comments.
Dang, man.
Harold was sentenced to 50 years in prison, and you won't believe what he did. In 2022, Noah Ney shot a 5-year-old girl in the neck and shoulder in Oklahoma. This teen, who I swear looks like a 9-year-old, was riding in a stolen car and purposely shot inside a home where the little girl was playing. But again, this was no accident. No one did this for a gang initiation. Luckily, the little girl survived, but had the bullet hit a spot an inch away, she would have definitely died. Noah was arrested, but not long after, he escaped the juvenile detention center by jumping a fence. He was found 4 days later, but when he was put back into the detention center, he repeatedly assaulted staff. Noah was sentenced as an adult, but the judge said that in 2028, his sentence can be reduced if he's proved that he's changed.
Imagine getting stood up for a day and it causes you to become a key part of a murder trial. It was 2012 in Kentucky, and Shayna Hoopers was 21 years old. She had just graduated from the University of Kentucky and was dating 29-year-old Ryan Poston. Ryan was an attorney, and the pair was said to be very toxic. They'd been together for about 1.5 years, but were very on and off. On the night of October the 12th, things would end for good. Those close to Ryan knew he wasn't happy. He tried ending things with Shayna multiple times, but she refused to accept this. She would turn up to his house, refuse to leave, and they would end up getting back together.
Toxic.
On the 12th of October, the pair were having food at Ryan's parents' house, and they would end up in another argument. Ryan decided to end things once and for all, and to prove to Shayna that he was over her, he decided to go on a date with another woman the next night.
Oh.
The woman was the stunning Audrey Bolt, who was the current Miss Ohio. Audrey and Ryan had arranged to go to a bar the night after at 9:30 p.m. Audrey was really looking forward to it and was very confused when he never showed up. Meanwhile, Shayna had turned up to Ryan's house again without warning. After another massive argument, she took one of his guns and shot him 6 times. She then decided to call police to confess. Now, while she was being interviewed by police, she was acting incredibly bizarre. She twirled around the room and sang, "I did it, yeah, I killed him." She also sang Amazing Grace. Shayna tried to claim that she acted in self-defense, but she was found guilty of murder and sentenced to 40 years in prison. Audrey had to testify in the murder trial. However, in August 2016, Shayna was actually granted a new trial. This was because it was revealed that one of the original jurors was actually a felon. She was again found guilty though in her retrial and was sentenced to life. The baby-faced...
Man, that's just a sign. If you guys are in a toxic relationship, man, just try to end it all because it can turn into something even worse, man.
Gangster that shot a little girl in the neck has been jailed for 50 years after a court heard that he knows the difference between right and wrong, but has no amenability to treatment. Noah Nay was sentenced as an adult for the 2022 shooting that saw the teen drive a stolen car and fire a gun towards the house in which the little girl was playing, hitting her in the neck and shoulder. It has been reported that his actions were part of the requirements for a gang initiation.
An American couple married for 75 years. They had one wish in common. A wish that shocked everyone. Jeanette, 96, and Alexander, 95. They started dating at the age of 8, were officially married in 1940, and live in San Diego, Calif. They have 5 sons and daughters and 16 grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Some time ago, Alexander suffered an accidental fall that fractured his hip, and he was confined to his bed at home. He used a special bed. It was placed next to his wife Janet's bed. Soon after, Alexander lost interest in life and became weak. On this day, June 29th, Alexander lay in Janet's arms. The daughter informed her mother that her father had died. Janet said sadly, with tears in her eyes, "This is your wish, to pass away in my arms. I love you. Wait for me. Soon we will meet again." Surprisingly, what's on the calendar for June 29th, 75 years ago today? It was the day they were married. The next morning, their daughter found out. Her mother had also passed away peacefully. It turned out that their common wish was to pass away happily together in an embrace. Follow me. Get more true stories every day.
That is like a story that we can leave without coincidence, man. Like, that was their one true wish and it happened like just a day after each other, man. They were together that long. That's how they wanted to go out. That's really bizarre.
Here's every character I think that's going to be in the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie. If you remember at the end of the movie, Abby ends up asking Mike, "Hey, when are we going to go back to see my friends? I want to see them." And Mike says, "You never know what's going to happen." Now, in my opinion, this movie's going to be based at least 5 to 15 years in the future. Now, hear me out. If we're following the plans of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 as a game, we have to go into the withered characters, because they've been untouched, unmaintenanced, and unloved for so long. We're going to be seeing withered characters in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Maybe not 15 years in the future, I may have dragged it a bit, maybe 3 to 5 years in the future. And as you guys know, all of the withered characters are a little bit more devious. And why are they more devious? Because these kids have been left alone for so long. They loved Abby, they loved hanging out with her. Yes, they wanted to kill her, but still. Withered Freddy, withered Chica, look at Bonnie, she doesn't have a face. Withered Foxy, Golden Freddy. Also think we're going to be seeing the puppet as well, aka Mike's little brother. So hear me out, I'm going to be the first one to say it. When we get a Five Nights at Freddy's 2, we are going to get withered characters. It's going to be based at least 3 to 5 years in the future. Just look at withered Bonnie. Imagine Abby pulls up, getting ready to see her friends, and all of a sudden sees Bonnie. My other theory is that they are going to be pissed. They've been left alone for way too long and miss their friend. And that is what's going to drive this next movie to be absolutely insane. Like and follow for more.
Yep, this nightmare is real, and planes are literally flipping over when passengers get up from their seats. A flight attendant for JetBlue had to issue an emergency announcement, making everyone realize their worst nightmares had come true on the plane, with one woman leaving a grim and dark message saying she wasn't sure if she'd ever see her grandkids again. The flight attendant asked all passengers to spread out as their weight was believed to be causing the plane to flip over, telling everyone to move to the middle of the plane.
So very slowly, little by little, move
towards the middle of the apron because apparently everything is like it tipped up.
With a tech expert saying this was so terrifying, he described it as the plane was about to do a backflip.
It felt like the plane was about to do a backflip.
Which begs the question of how safe are these planes to begin with. Many of the passengers had rushed to the rear of the plane when deplaning, which caused this, but there's still many questions which JetBlue does not have the answers for. While no one was injured, we don't know if this is something that can happen to all planes or if it's rare.
See how this fake thug reacted to a life sentence. In 2015, Jaleel Smith Riley was arrested for his involvement in a 2013 robbery that left Aaron Martin with a bullet in his head and Portia Brooks dead. Smith Riley pled guilty to the crime and was hoping to avoid a life without parole sentence. Prior to being sentenced, he cried and begged for leniency.
Consequences, man. The fake thug, bro.
His grandfather also spoke on his behalf.
He always come by to check on me and his grandmother. He always did. He worked in the church with us all.
When the judge spoke, Riley Smith didn't like what he heard.
Court defendant served a term of life without parole. As to count 4, the offense of attempted murder.
Check it out.
This heartless thug will die in prison.
Hey man, you have to deal with the consequences. If you want to be about that life, you gotta know what comes with it.
One of the most disgusting shock videos on the internet explained. I'm explaining this off memory and other people's comments. There is no way I watch this video again because it's that gross. The video is 1 minute long, and as it starts, you hear a piano track over the video and you see 2 girls making out. But at around 10 seconds in, it gets absolutely sickening. One of the girls gets a glass cup and defecates in it, filling it all the way to the top. A jump cut then occurs and it shows the 2 women licking the feces in the cup like it's ice cream. It cuts again and it shows one of the girls rubbing the feces around her mouth, and the video then cuts again, and it shows the 2 girls making out with feces in their mouth and all over their faces. The next scene, one of the girls sticks her fingers down her throat, trying to make herself vomit into the glass as the other girl licks it. The next scene, it shows one of the girls standing up and the other one is on her knees. The one standing up then pukes directly onto the face of the girl on her knees. The final scene shows both girls completely covered in feces as it's even overflowing their mouths. And this is where the video finally concludes. This video is absolutely sickening, and when I tell you not to watch it, don't watch it. I know I say that for all the videos I cover, but this one isn't brutal or gory. It's just plain out disgusting, and you really just don't want to see it. You can watch reactions on YouTube of people watching this for the first time. Joe Rogan even has his reaction video up from years ago.
Hey guys, do you remember Adam Johnson, the hockey player who suffered the fatal cut to his neck in a hockey game on October the 28th? Well, the player whose skate caused the injury has actually been arrested and charged with manslaughter. This is Matt Petgrave, probably not saying that right, but he is the player whose skate caused the injury to Johnson's neck. And news out today is saying that he has been arrested and charged with the manslaughter of Adam Johnson. Now, initially, I was kind of shocked at this news. And all of the footage that I saw, I did not think that it was intentional. But then, when you go back and you watch the replay in slow motion, that kind of changes things. Apparently, the hockey world and all of the hockey fans have been waiting on this to come. I'm going to add a clip in here that shows when the injury occurred during that hockey game. And you'll watch it through in regular time first, and then it will be played in slow motion. And I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are. You can see it happens quickly there, but watch it in slow motion where Petgrave is in the red, he comes across and intentionally kicks that leg up, which slashes Johnson's neck and results in his death.
Here's how all of the missing children from the Five Nights at Freddy's movie passed away and became the animatronics. Well, as you guys know, little backstory, these kids ended up going to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. They all ended up disappearing in, I'm pretty sure, 1984, all because of William Afton. Wanted to run some experiments and see if he was able to combine children's souls with these animatronics. And let's just say he did his damn thing. Up first is Freddy. It is said that Freddy's original character was unalived by hiding, which kind of makes sense because you never really see Freddy doing any wild shit. I mean, you see him, but he's always kind of just like lurking or pretending to be still. Then have Foxy, said to be the soul of one of the kids that was running, hence the reason Foxy is always so fast and always running. We also have to take into the account the kid in the orange, who has Foxy's hook, and literally starts sprinting as soon as Mike gets too close. Then have Chica, who's said to have the embodiment of one of the kids that was screaming. Seems as though you always see Chica when she jump scares people in the games is she's screaming, which kind of makes sense. Then have Bonnie, who's said to be after one of the kids that fought back. He obviously didn't win. That shows why Bonnie's always so brawling. Then you have Golden Freddy, who's said to be the souls of 2 children. Which is supposed to be someone named Cassidy, but in the movie it's Mike's little brother. That's the theory. Like and follow for more.
Oh no.
Those theories are crazy.
No.
I thought that I had seen everything when it came to cults, but you are not prepared for what this cult believes. So HBO just released this documentary about the Love Is One cult, which was run by this woman, Amy Carlson, who calls herself Mother God. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but she believed she was controlled by the spirit of Robin Williams, and this like yassified version of Saint Germain. Also, I cover a lot of dark stuff on this page, so you should follow along. She also said she could channel and get advice from this like galactic federation of dead celebrities. There's like Mr. Rogers, Carrie Fisher, Steve Irwin, and randomly Donald Trump, who is not dead. But Robin Williams is at the top, and so the cult believes they're getting a lot of advice through Robin Williams, so they'll say things like, so one of the beliefs that this cult has is that one day Robin Williams is going to arrive in a spaceship to take Mother God away so that she can spiritually ascend. He also told her that she can only be 103 pounds to get on the spaceship, which is why she's trying to lose a lot of weight. Eventually, Mother God starts getting sicker and sicker, and also bluer and bluer because of the colloidal silver supplements they won't stop giving her, and everyone thinks, oh my god, Robin Williams must be coming on a spaceship really soon to help Mother ascend. Eventually, she passes away, and guess what? Shockingly, Robin Williams does not descend in an intergalactic spaceship to come collect the 103-pound body of Mother God. And so the cult members just have her body. They don't know what to do with it. They thought Robin Williams was going to come. So they hang out with it for 12 days until the police finally show up. Anyways, this whole thing is a trip. You just gotta watch it to believe it. I'm seeing photos.
Should we check that out, Seekers, man? People who be getting caught up in those groups, man, they be into some weird things, but to say that they thought Robin Williams was going to come down in a spaceship, that's just one of the most bizarre things I've ever heard watching these videos together with you guys. Be careful, man, of those groups.
Show a 13-year-old boy. Police say he murdered his mother, and before that, he's standing over her in a vulnerable position as he's getting ready to her to death. Derek Rosa snapped a selfie after the crime, his hands smeared with blood.
No, I'm not her. I just have a little bit of blood on my hand.
I need to know if your mom is breathing.
She's 10 minutes.
Okay, when did you do that?
Blood all over the floor.
Where is your sister? Your sister still there?
She's sleeping.
She's sleeping, okay.
Excuse me, miss, what do I do if she wakes up?
If you wake up, just let me know. I need to know. Do you think we can help your mom?
Miss, she said, I took pictures and I told my friends about it. Was that bad?
You told who about it?
My friends.
Who did you send the pictures to?
My friend. I don't know his real name because he is an online friend. He plays favorites a lot.
Cell phone video shows the moment a teenage boy surrendered with his hands up.
His demeanor, he was very quiet, apologetic, very respectful. Not what you would expect walking into that home and seeing that crime scene.
The 13-year-old, identified as Derek Rosa, is currently in secure detention. When officers arrived to Unit 201 inside the Amelia Oaks apartment complex, they found the victim in her bedroom with multiple wounds, just inches from her newborn baby girl.
Next to her was a crib. And inside of that crib, a 14-day-old baby that fortunately was not injured.
Places that will disappear in your lifetime. Venice, Italy is a beautiful place, but it will disappear in your lifetime. Venice is slowly sinking. The canals cause many floods, and these floods are causing Venice to tilt east. Experts say that by 2100 the city will be uninhabitable. The Great Wall of China is amazing, but it will soon be gone. 1/3 of the wall has already been destroyed. This is mainly due to natural damage, for example climate change, but people walking on it and local settlements stealing bricks from it has also damaged the wall badly. Experts say that within decades the wall may be gone. San Francisco is an amazing city. It's known for earthquakes, but in 2016 geologists found something scary. They found 2 earthquake fault lines underneath the San Francisco Bay. This could destroy San Francisco, and there's a 75% chance this could happen before 2086. The Great Barrier Reef in Australia is one of the most amazing things in the world, but it won't be around for much longer. It's already decreased more than 50% of its original size, and lots of the vibrant coloured corals are now turning white. Some believe the Great Barrier Reef may disappear by 2030.
Damn, that's just in a couple of years. What the hell? All these places, man, that's about to disappear. I gotta see them before they go, man. The Great Wall, Venice, Italy. Hey, man, I want to travel. What the hell? I'm gonna have to put that on my list.
This is one of the worst true crime cases I ever covered, and this is a massive trigger warning. In 2007, the boy on the right named Gabriel Coon, who was 12 years old, was killed by Daniel Petrie, who was 16, and on the left. Daniel Petrie and Gabriel Coon became good friends and began playing an online role-playing game called Tibia. At one point of the game, Gabriel asked Daniel for 20,000 virtual cash to clear the stage. Gabriel borrowed money from Daniel to use in the game and then refused to pay him back. Gabriel then blocked Daniel on everything, and this made him furious, and he went to Gabriel's house to pay him a visit. A couple of days before the murder, Daniel called the home phone of Gabriel and his mom answered. She explained that she would be out of town and that her son would be home alone if they wanted to play, completely unaware of the boys falling out. And on August 23rd, 2007, Daniel went to Gabriel's house and knocked on the door. Nobody answered, and Daniel kept knocking, but eventually Gabriel started speaking to Daniel through the door. Daniel told Gabriel to unlock the door and let him in, and if he apologized to him, everything would be fine. Believing this, Gabriel unlocked the door and let Daniel in. And after entering the house, Daniel locked the door behind him. Daniel then brutally assaulted Gabriel. Gabriel tried his best to defend himself, but he failed to do so. Daniel was older, bigger, and stronger. Gabriel was dripping in blood after being brutally beaten by Daniel. Daniel then laughed at the terrified Gabriel and took him to the bedroom, where he then sexually assaulted him. Gabriel cried, but this made Daniel even more cruel. After all of this, Gabriel threatened Daniel, saying he would tell his mother everything that happened, but this only made Daniel more mad. And in a fit of rage, Daniel took a cord from a gaming console and wrapped it around Gabriel's neck and strangled him with it until he went limp. Daniel assumed Gabriel was dead, and believing this, Daniel tried to move and hide the body in the crawl space, leading to the bedrooms. However, the body was too heavy, and after realizing this, Daniel searched the house for sharp tools, and eventually he found a kitchen knife and a hacksaw. Daniel then returned to Gabriel's body, and in order to make it lighter, he took the knife and hacksaw and began cutting at the top of Daniel's leg to remove it, and as Daniel cut into Gabriel's leg, he woke up. Gabriel wasn't dead. He let out a blood-curdling scream, but Daniel restrained him, making sure to twist and turn the blade to make it even more painful. Eventually, Daniel dismembered his right leg and moved to his left. And after severing both of his legs, Gabriel passed away. His autopsy suggested he was still alive throughout the whole ordeal, and he eventually died from shock and blood loss. After Daniel finished the dismemberment, he tried to hide the body again, and he wrapped a cable and wire around Gabriel's body. But the body was still too heavy, and Daniel then fled the house. Gabriel's body was discovered by his brother, and the body was left by the hallway door and the legs and the hacksaw too. Daniel Petrie was admitted to a juvenile center in September 2007 to only 3 years. This is due to Brazil's laws of sentencing minors. And to make you realize how evil Daniel was, when the judge asked him if he had any last words of remorse, Daniel said this: "Gabriel was a coward and a thief. He burns in hell right now where I sent him. And when I die, I will find him in hell and finish my revenge." It's also worth saying that the photos of the crime and Gabriel's body had surfaced on the internet, and nobody knows how they got there. I highly recommend not to look at them due to the graphic nature of them, and they would definitely be the worst crime scene photos you will ever see. It's honestly insane how Daniel is walking free today. May Gabriel rest in peace.
This is the
3
case of
years?
19-year-old Alexi Traviso and how she
System
went
needs
to
to
the
be
hospital
fixed.
complaining of back pain, but ended up getting charged with murder. Alexi Traviso was a 19-year-old senior in high school living in Artesia, New Mexico. She was on the varsity cheerleading team, and she was dating her boyfriend Devin for about 2 years. Honestly, Alexi just seemed like a typical teenage girl. Her prom was coming up soon, her graduation was around the corner, and she was already thinking about what university she was going to go to in the fall. January 26, 2023, that day was pretty much just like any other day for 19-year-old Alexi. She went to cheerleading practice that day and got home in the afternoon. She spent some time with her family and then she went to bed. However, she was woken up in the middle of the night with severe back pain. This was like not normal back pain. Like Alexi was in so much pain that her mother decided to take her to the hospital. Alexi and her mother Rosa arrived at the Artesia General Hospital in the early morning hours of January 27th. Alexi checked in and told the doctors that she had really bad pain in her back, so they wanted to do a test to see if maybe she had a UTI or a kidney infection, since back pain can be a symptom of both of those things. So they're getting ready to do those tests, and then they asked Alexi, "Are you pregnant?" Which is a very common thing to ask. I mean, if you're a girl and you've gone to the doctor before, I feel like they always ask you if you're pregnant. On top of that, experiencing back pain can be a symptom of pregnancy. So the doctor asked Alexi, "Are you pregnant?" And she says no, that she's still a virgin and that she hasn't engaged in any sexual activity. So the doctor's like, okay, perfect. And they send Alexi over to go get a CAT scan done so that they can check for kidney stone. And while she's getting that test done, the doctors decide to still do a pregnancy test just in case, because you never know. So they did a urine test, and when the results came back, they were positive. Alexi was pregnant. Now, of course, pregnancy tests can sometimes be inaccurate, so the doctors wanted to check her blood just to make sure that she was actually pregnant. And while all of this is going on, Alexi tells the doctors that she needs to go to the bathroom. Like, she has to go number 2, and it's coming out, like, right now. So she gets up from the hospital bed and she literally runs to the bathroom holding her butt because she feels like it's going to come out. She locks herself inside the bathroom and she's in there for quite some time. Doctors and the staff at the hospital are getting kind of worried because she's been in there for a while and they know that she's pregnant. So they're thinking maybe she's having some type of miscarriage or something else is happening. They knock on the door, but Alexi refuses to come out. At one point, her mother Rosa also goes over to knock on the door, but Alexi says that she's just having trouble going number 2 and that she'll be out shortly. At this point, Alexi has been in the bathroom for more than like 20 minutes. So the doctors tell her, if you don't open the door right now, we're going to unlock it. Before the doctor can unlock the door, Alexi just opens up and starts walking back to her room. One of the doctors looks inside the bathroom just to see, what happened, and they do see that there was all over the floor. They asked Alexi, what's going on? And she said that she simply got her period. Call over the cleaning lady to come clean up the bathroom, and when she starts to take out the trash, notices that the trash bag feels heavier than usual. So Leela, the housekeeper, goes to look inside the garbage bin, and when she pulls out a bag, she finds a baby. The baby was inside a clear plastic bag at the bottom of the bin. Okay, more in part 2.
Never wake up a sleepwalker.
Do you want me to wake him up?
They're laughing. This ain't funny though.
This girl was freaking out when her sister got out of bed and started sleepwalking.
Stop staring at me like that. Alexis! Mom! Mom!
It's like a spirit takes them over.
She's just standing here staring at me. Just relax. Okay. I gotta go. Sienna.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Follow for more. In 2022. Just a few weeks ago, a 32-year-old man named Khalil Kimi was swimming at a pool party in Israel when all of a sudden a sinkhole opened up under the water, causing him to be dragged inside and sucked to his death. On January 5th, a personal trainer named Tom Mansfield died after ingesting an amount of pre-workout equivalent to 200 cups of coffee. The father of 2 reported that his heart started beating extremely fast and he was foaming at the mouth before he died just minutes later. The following day, on January 6th, a 16-year-old boy named Teddy Balkin was playing a JV hockey game when he fell to the ground and collided with another player. His neck was then slit by the boy's hockey skate and he died later in emergency surgery.
Hockey, dangerous sport, bro. Risking your life.
I had to get myself up and out of bed for this because I'd never heard of this case before. Welcome to Creep Time. On TikTok with Celestine, these are the 13 unaccounted minutes before Patrice Andreas went missing. On April 15th, 2004, Patrice, who's a local salon owner in Georgia, walks into her shop and finishes her last client at exactly 11:37 a.m. Another client then calls the shop at 11:50, to which there's no answer, which is very unlike Patrice. In that 13-minute window, something happens in that salon where Patrice goes missing. The next client comes in to find the shop empty, and police are called to the scene, which is eerily undisturbed. Aside from some missing money in the register, there's nothing that's out of place, there's no sign of a struggle, even her lunch is still sitting there warmed up. But two separate witnesses would come forward to report passing the salon within that time frame. Both witnesses come forward to report seeing a light blue sedan parked out front and two unidentified women standing next to it. One of the women was described as tall with dark hair and the other short with light hair. These eyewitness accounts mark one of the only insights as to what happened in those 13 minutes. After 20 months of searching, her remains are finally found at the bottom of a ravine, but the manner of death is unknown. Initially, her husband is suspected to be involved as maybe a jealous spouse, but a scrutinizing investigation would rule him out. She leaves behind her 15-year-old son at the time, who till this day continues to search for answers as to what really happened to his mom on April 15th. So what are your theories as to those 13 unknown minutes?
It's kind of scary, man, how like that small amount of unaccounted time led to somebody's minds. Make sure you're having to be aware of everything, man, even the minute details. Like I said, if it wasn't for those two people, eyewitnesses checking out that pulled up that blue sedan, they wouldn't have had nothing.
Creepy facts that you shouldn't read. Your mind gets sense when someone is staring at you even when you're asleep, which explain why you randomly wake up during the night. Spirits are more active at night and mostly exist in air-conditioned rooms. They look and stare at you at night. They read your mind and try to speak and show your future dreams. Follow if you're scared.
Interesting, spooky facts. You guys read that?
Videos that seem innocent, but actually have a terrifying backstory. This video shows a man playing Dance Dance Revolution while some teens unknowingly record him and make fun of him. 6 months after this video was taken, this man, Adam Lanzo, would shoot his own mother 4 times in the head while she's sleeping, then drive to Sandy Hook Elementary School where he'd murdered 23 people. This video shows magician Tommy Cooper having a heart attack while on live TV. The audience, as well as his assistant, thought it was part of the show, so they laughed along while he died on stage. This video shows a popular CSGO streamer showing off his new McLaren. However, he was banned a week later for hacking, and this caused him to have a mental breakdown. So he purposely crashed his car into a van, killing himself, a mother, and her child. This video shows a band performing minutes before the venue burnt down and killed everyone inside. Even creepier, the band's name was Burn.
Damn, that's a freaking scary coincidence. All those creepy facts, man. It's like these pictures and videos, they have dark backstories you never know until you find out. Can't judge a book by its cover, that's what they say.
A 20-year-old cold case has had a major breakthrough after an eerie twist led to police identifying a teenage girl's remains. Midtown Jane Doe was found mysteriously entombed in cement in a former New York hotspot during construction in 2003. Investigators believe she was fatally strangled, bound with electrical wire, and wrapped in a carpet before being cemented into the building's basement. Now, Midtown Jane Doe has been identified as Patricia Kathleen McGlone, a girl from Brooklyn who was last seen in the late 1960s. DNA from a woman killed in the 9/11 attacks, also named Patricia, helped authorities identify the girl, as the two were related.
This is the devastating case of Kylie Rodney. On August 6, 2022, 16-year-old Kylie went missing at Prosser Family Campground in Truckee, California. Kylie attended a school party with more than 100 kids, but it's alleged that older people also showed up, which made a lot of the teens uncomfortable. Kylie texted her mom right before midnight and told her that she would be home in 45 minutes, but the following morning, Kylie's mother got super worried when Kylie was still not home. One of Kylie's friends said that she was with her the entire evening until she decided to go home at 12:20 a.m. Police searched Prosser Lake for more than 15 hours, but were unable to find Kylie's vehicle. But on August 21st, a group of divers who go by the name Adventures with Purpose decided that they would help look for Kylie. It didn't take the group of divers much time to locate Kylie's car, only 14 feet underwater. The car was upside down and Kylie's body was inside. The investigation is still ongoing and the autopsy results have not been released yet. So what do you guys think happened to Kylie? Was this a tragic accident or was there foul play involved?
Definitely had to be foul play, something. All those people showing up to the party, she got uncomfortable.
Dark things that happen at Disney, part 23. I actually got a lot of messages asking me to cover this case. On December 3rd, Chris Christensen passed away after jumping from a parking structure outside of Disneyland. This is reportedly the area that he jumped from, and that's where he landed. Now, it's a very sad and tragic case. It breaks my heart. So according to the letter that Chris left, him and his wife Marlena got in a really bad fight. He said their marriage was perfect up until that fight. She accused him of being aggressive and physical with her and their kids. Although Chris claims that that's not what happened and those claims were false. As a result, he spent the night in jail and he pretty much lost his job of being a school principal. Chris said that he took his own life to escape his partner and these claims that she made up. It's a very touchy case. That's why I didn't really want to address it. Like I said, a lot of people told me to.
That one case, when anything resolves Disney's now in the
Most
news, they
unusual
always seem to
deaths
be
in
able to
human
hide it.
history. Yuriko Onaja was in the middle of having sex with his 6th wife when his other wives caught him and became jealous. They forced him to do it with each of them, and he stopped breathing before he could get to the 5th wife. A 32-year-old man from Florida, Edward Archibald, died from choking on arthropod body parts in a cockroach-eating contest. When 25-year-old Salman Mirza met up with his ex-fiancée at a hotel in India, he realized that he didn't have protection. Salman then proceeded to seal up his pee-pee using a strong glue, causing him to die of organ failure. This past Halloween, a Brazilian man was fishing with his 2 friends when all of a sudden they were attacked by bees. The man attempted to escape by jumping into a nearby lake where he was attacked by piranhas and died. 42-year-old Tony Isles was in a McDonald's drive-thru when he dropped his credit card. He opened his door to retrieve it when his car rolled forward, pinning him between the door and the car, crushing him to death.
Crazy cases, man. You would never think in a million years that stuff like that would happen. That it.
This is why you should never take walks alone at night. In 2007, a girl was on a late-night walk when she looked at the end of the road and saw the silhouette of a man moving around very strangely. It was like he was doing the waltz, but he was moving towards her, so she was sketched out, crossed the road, and went the other way. After a couple minutes, she turned around to see what he was doing, and he was right across the street from her, now staring up into the sky with a huge grin on his face. Now totally creeped out, she turns around and walks about a half block before checking again, and to her horror, he's now crouched down right behind her. But luckily, he stands up, turns around, and kind of hobbles away. And then she notices something. The man had turned around and was now sprinting directly towards her. She runs to safety and now just hopes she never has to see that smiling man again.
The smiling man. It's that factor cap. That's scary.
Okay, these are terrifying facts to keep you up at night. Our first one is locked-in syndrome. And I hear you thinking, what is that? Well, locked-in syndrome is essentially sleep paralysis, but for comas. You could be put into a coma and have complete awareness of what's going on around you, but you can't move any of your limbs and you can't speak. People have described it as a living hell and the most terrible thing anyone can go through. How many of you are cat owners? Well, I hate to do this to you, but your furry best friend is not there for you. If you manage to die before your cat does, your cat will wait till you're dead and then begin to eat your body. And for this last one, I have to give you a warning. Because if you don't like rats, it's going to ruin your day. Go onto Google Images and search up Rat King. Just look at it. And when you're done doing that, share this video with one of your friends to ruin their day.
I ain't doing that. Go search up Rat King, y'all.
I haven't covered many cases that deal with the paranormal on this account, but this is a story that stuck out to me. Welcome to Creep Time on TikTok with Celestine. This story is from a woman named Whitney Renebe. The story takes place in a rural part of Oklahoma, sometime between 2019 or maybe early 2020. One night while her mother is just sitting in the living room just browsing through old photos on her phone, she comes across 3 pictures that startle her. On her camera roll were these 3 photos taken within minutes of each other around 3 in the morning just a few days prior. One is of her husband sleeping, one is of her daughter sleeping, and then one is of herself. She realized that no one else in the house had taken any of these photos, nor did her family have a history of sleepwalking. This is a family that has 5 dogs in the house, all of which tend to bark with strangers, but there was no sound that night. Till this day, she has no idea who took these pictures or how they were able to do so without disturbing the house or the dogs. The photos are a haunting mystery, leaving the family with one question. Who took these pictures?
Who took the pictures, y'all? They snuck in with no detection.
Let's talk about skinwalkers. They are said to be powerful witches and medicine men. They can even change their form to any animal they desire, including humans. But they mainly change into deer, wolves, and coyote. You know, dragon fruit ain't that good. The scary part is they say if you see one, they can steal your face and even your last scream for help. You might think this is like a folklore or a tale. People actually believe these are real. The scary part is there's actual videos of people seeing oddly walking humans screaming help in the middle of nowhere.
Is that a skinwalker, y'all?
See, they say skinwalkers pretend to be humans in distress, and if they're calling out for help, they're just trying to lure you in. Ashley. That's when they take your life and use your voice and your look to catch their next gullible victim. A man's wife wasn't even home, but yet somebody was calling him to come downstairs in his wife's voice.
Is that an edit, y'all? Is that legit? Don't trust it.
If you want me to go out in the middle of the field, at least shapeshift into like Rihanna or Beyonce. I'm making a mess, but this look good. I'll be there in a minute. 30 seconds flat. Naked. Very naked. Maybe even Lizzo. Let's light this candle.
What the? Skinwalkers, man. Should we check that out? I've seen a couple of videos, man. But I haven't deep dive into it yet. Edit. Gotta call it like I see it, man.
This is the Pitbull video, one of the hardest cartel execution videos to watch explained. The video that I'm about to explain is extremely graphic and I don't recommend searching for it.
I won't.
The video begins with a man lying on his back on the ground and 2 men are holding his legs open. He's being restrained. And in total there is 5 perpetrators and 1 victim. And also 2 pit bull dogs. Apparently, this is the victim's punishment for allegedly doing something with a kid or to a kid. The victim is naked, and at the start of the video, the dog has done most of the work. The dog already ripped off the man's privates, and it's just a bloody mess. The dog continues to rip pieces of flesh off of where his privates used to be, and the victim is being held down, and he is also gagged so he can't scream. But sometimes the gag came loose, and at this point you could hear the man scream in pain. The victim was even talking, but I couldn't translate it, but that means he was completely conscious during this, which I can't even imagine the pain. As a man, this might be one of the worst videos out there. Funky Town is bad, Ghost Rider is bad, but as a man, I can't imagine anything more painful than a pit bull ripping off your junk while you're still alive. Not many people mention this video with the other disturbing ones, but it's definitely up there. There's not any information about the victim after the video. I don't know if he died, but it's safe to assume he did. He lost a lot of blood, and if a dog eats your privates, you will most likely get an infection and die from it. All in all, this video is very graphic, very real, and very disturbing. Please do yourself a favor and never go searching for this video, especially if you're a man.
I never search for those video seekers, do y'all? Me personally, I don't.
Someone recently asked me what the strangest thing I've seen in a police file is, and I think I have an answer. It's this trash can. Let me explain. So this trash can was found in Joan Rish's house in 1961, immediately after she went missing. Her young daughter had gone to a neighbor's house and told the neighbor that mommy is missing and there's red paint all over the kitchen. And when the police got there, they saw that the red all over the kitchen was blood. But there were also a few really weird details like this trash can, so the police had no idea what had happened to Joan. So first and foremost is the fact that this trash can is just in the middle of the kitchen. Normally it was under the sink, but here it is just in the middle of the kitchen for no reason. And then the contents of the trash made no sense. So here is the phone receiver, which has been ripped from the wall. You can see in this photo here that the phone is still on the wall, but just the mouthpiece was ripped off. And then moved across the kitchen and neatly placed on the trash. And on the phone was a fingerprint they could never identify. People hypothesized that maybe someone was there, and when Joan went to call for help, they ripped the mouthpiece off. Then there was this beer. So Joan's husband was out of town when this happened, but when he came back, he said that no one in the house drank Miller High Lifes. He didn't drink it, Joan didn't drink it, the trash had been taken out since the last time people were over, but yet there's Miller High Life next to the trash. Joan disappeared that day and was never seen again, and these two little pieces right here are some of the only evidence that someone else may have been in the house. They don't know if she ran away on her own, if she was taken, or what. But the whole story is really wild, and I tell it all tonight on the episode. Also, merch goes live when the episode drops.
These are the world's most haunted dolls. Starting at number 4, Letta the doll, a 200-year-old wooden doll with human hair. She was discovered beneath a house in Australia. Kerry Walton, the caretaker of this doll, witnessed many strange things ever since he took her inside his home.
I don't know.
Marks on the floor, objects mysteriously moving, and strange noises at night. Number 3, Okiku. This doll was purchased by a young man in 1918 in Japan as a gift from his younger sister. Tragically, after a year, the little girl passed away from a severe case of the flu. Sometime later, the family noticed something off about the doll's hair. It was originally short, and it has grown past its shoulder. Until this day, the doll's hair is maintained on a regular basis because it never stopped growing. Number 2, Annabelle. Known for its infamous movie releases and stories with Ed and Lorraine Warren, we do know that this doll is possessed by something that is evil, and whoever held this doll suffered from many bad things. Therefore, the doll is now stored in the Warren Museum, safe and sealed. But Annabelle is not the most haunted doll.
What is it?
Because coming at number 1, Robert. Robert is not an ordinary doll. This thing is sinister. This doll is possessed by a demon, and it speaks to children. In Florida, in the early 1900s, this doll was gifted to a young boy named Robert Eugene, and his parents always used to hear Robert and his doll speak in the bedroom alone, and the family used to hear the voice of the doll respond. Eugene kept his doll till 1974 until he passed away at an old age. No one knew why this old man kept his doll for more than 70 years. After his death, Robert was given to the East Martello Museum. Visitors who have taken his picture without permission claim to have experienced terrible misfortune. If you visit Robert in the museum, you will see that this doll is surrounded by apology letters and also other letters, like permission to look at him. And no one dares to take a picture of Robert.
Robert the doll. I'm gonna have to look that up, man. There were people that would definitely write letters saying how they were sorry taking picture videos of him without his permission. Some dark energy going on there. Edit.
This guy is the real Humpty Dumpty, and his story is much darker than you think. Deep in the eerie town of Puddlebrook, Kentucky, resided Gilbert Eggman, a man plagued by misfortune. His tale took a sinister turn when he joined the construction crew. Perched atop a towering brick wall on his very first day, 3 co-workers, fueled by malevolence, sent the ladder crashing down. Gilbert's pleas for help fell on deaf ears. Desperate to rescue him, the trio resorted to a crane. But destiny had other plans. The crane, guided by an unseen force, struck Gilbert, sending him hurtling to a grim demise. The town whispered of Gilbert's curse. In the following months, darkness consumed Puddlebrook. One by one, the 3 construction workers met their untimely ends, each death shrouded in mystery. Gilbert's curse, it seemed, had unleashed its wrath upon them, becoming an urban legend in the small town.
You won't believe what this person found on the dark web. The dark web refers to 80% of the internet that is not accessible through normal internet browsers. Here's why you should never go searching on there. This one person was searching around when they stumbled upon a live bid. Now, he didn't actually realize what they were bidding for, but he was watching it. When the bidding ended, it was revealed that it was for a woman tied to a chair. The winning bidder decided what happened to this girl. It ended up being a torture and murder live stream. To this day, it was never revealed who was behind this or who this poor girl was. That's really sad and messed up. But follow for more sad and messed up content, I guess. Also follow me on YouTube, link in bio.
Dark web, man. We've heard stories about that, but
this man has been sentenced to 100 years in prison after doing the unthinkable to his daughter. Tony Valles is a 66-year-old from Helena. On the 10th of July 2022, he was at home with his partner Heather. Tony's 8-year-old daughter Ariana and his 18-year-old son were also at the house at the time. Suddenly, 2 women entered the property who he believed were evicting him. He flew into a violent rage and grabbed a weapon from his bedroom. At this point, he began shooting. He shot Heather and she fell to the floor, and then he shot at his son. His 8-year-old daughter tried to escape and run from the terror, but she was hit with gunfire. She was on the stairs when she was hit by a bullet and she fell back. She tragically died after being rushed to hospital. After his daughter's death, Tony stated, "I'm sorry for all this. I can't undo what I've done. The pain and the misery will last a lifetime, and I'm sorry for all that." Tony was sentenced to serve 100 years in prison.
This is Mr. Swirl, one of the worst pedophiles in world history. And let me tell you, this story is really disturbing, so viewer discretion is advised. So this is Mr. Swirl Face himself, Christopher Paul Neal. He was born in Canada in 1975. So Christopher had a pretty unremarkable childhood, but it should be stated here that he wanted to become a Catholic priest. But after the seminary denied him because he wasn't properly qualified, he decided to become a teacher instead. So Christopher eventually moved out of Canada. He moved to South Korea. That's where he was employed as a teacher. And suddenly, all of these images of CP started circulating around the internet. Christopher appeared in over 200 images of CP that he produced himself. And in every photo that he produced, he always put this swirly effect over his face, thinking that it would obscure his identity. Well, eventually German computer experts were able to unswirl the image. They produced this image to the left, and a number of people who knew Christopher contacted Interpol and told them, this is that guy. So once he was identified, Christopher fled to Thailand. That's where he decided he would make his great getaway. And while he was living in Thailand, he employed the services of a young boy who would go out to local internet cafes and bring Christopher other young boys that he would abuse and take photos of. But this didn't last long and obviously didn't work out for Christopher. In the year 2007, towards the end of the year, he was finally arrested by the Thai police. There's nothing that brings me more joy than seeing all these officers around this guy. And one thing that should be noted about Christopher is his unrepentant nature when he's photographed. You'll see what I mean. Pictures like these were taken by the press when he was finally arrested and brought to justice. So in Thailand, Christopher was sentenced to 39 months in prison and he was handed a $1,700 plus fine. But he later admitted to the crime, he was eventually released, and then he returned to Canada. Upon his return to Canada, he was immediately arrested at the Vancouver International Airport. Now, while Christopher was in Canada, CP was found on his phone and laptop. He was sentenced to a number of years in prison. But in March of 2017, Christopher was released from prison, and he now lives in Vancouver somewhere, according to the internet. That's right, Mr. Swirly Face is currently out on the streets. I didn't know this. I think this is an absolute injustice to all the victims of this guy. This is absolutely a horrific story, and I cannot believe he's not serving more time for appearing in over 200 images of CP. It's crazy. But yeah, let me know below. Do you think this guy should still be in prison? I'm also going to be starting a true crime series talking about murders, conspiracies, all of the above on my YouTube channel, The Paranormal Files, so go subscribe if you don't already. But yeah, this story is unbelievable and sickening.
Insane. Just roaming the streets after all what he did.
I posted a video listing 8 horrifying facts about jinns. Number 2 from that list caught many viewers' attention. Let's have a look at that clip. Number 2, mythical creatures that we see in movies, such as dragons, mermaids, goblins, and trolls, are inspired by supernatural beings.
Really?
The jinns of the sky, the jinns of the sea, the jinns of the mountains, and the jinns of the caves. For hundreds of years, mythical creatures were always inspired by supernatural beings. Let's use mermaids as an example. In urban legends, mermaids are known to be sea creatures that lure sailors to their death by their enchanting voice. They are not as innocent and friendly as how movies make them seem. This is the only real video available online that could maybe prove a being of what seems to be a mermaid.
Another one over here?
Alright.
What are those?
Whoa. Swimming side by side, something was weird. What the hell? This is all on 4K and this doesn't mean national news or something?
What are those trails? Oh, something swimming fast underneath that water. Something swimming real fast underneath that water. I hear him. Where's he at? What the fuck is that noise, bro? What is that noise? Where are you?
Let's not forget the importance of oceans in the world of jinns. The most protected area in their whole world is on water. The throne of Iblis is on water. But the main question is, are these shape-shifting jinns, half humanoids, half fish, or do mermaids actually exist? Only God knows the answer.
Imagine finding a rat baked inside your loaf of bread. That's exactly what happened to a woman in South Africa. In August of this year, this woman bought a loaf of whole wheat bread from a local shop on her way home from work. She ate a few slices without noticing the rat, and then one morning she took out the bread from the fridge to make toast and saw this black hair coming out of her bread. As you can see here, the rat is literally baked inside the bread. After an investigation was done, it was stated that this wasn't the first time that someone found a rat inside this company's food. This seems to be happening more often now because something very similar happened to a man in Australia in February when he bought this wrap and then he noticed that he was chewing on a rat. He bought the wrap at a very popular place called Beefy's Aussie World and said that while he was chewing on it, he realized that it was really chewy. So he spat it out and there was an entire rat. I don't understand how something like this could happen, but this man went back to the restaurant and complained, and all the workers were in disbelief. He said that till this day, he hasn't been able to enjoy a meal because he can't stop thinking about the rat inside his food.
Sue them, man. You need to get that money, bro. I'm suing, bro. Imagine you eating a rat and you freaking want a rat so chewy, boom, it's a rat. See, because how would you guys react? I definitely need to see that down below. I'm suing, man. I'm sorry. Gotta be something.
Guys, parents told you as a kid. Number 1, that if you swallow gum, it will stay in your stomach for 7 years. Yeah, this is false. You would actually just poop it out in a couple days. Number 2, that coffee will stunt your growth. This is false. All it would do is make a hyper kid have even more energy. Number 3, that if you eat your carrots, you will get night vision or better eyesight. Unfortunately, this is false. All it will do is make your eyes more healthy. But if you do eat enough carrots, your skin could turn orange. Number 4, if you keep growing cross-eyed, you'll stay like that forever. Well, this is just simply incorrect. Nothing will happen. Number 5, that cracking your knuckles will give you arthritis. This is incorrect. Knuckle cracking is actually just nitrogen going into a joint.
Number 6, that chocolate milk comes from brown cows. Yeah, this chocolate milk came from the same cow your white milk came from. Number 7, that sitting too close to the TV will give you eye pain. Scientists actually studied this, and that's not true at all. Nothing will happen to your eyes.
This is the creepy
My
story
whole childhood was a lie.
A girl was on the subway late at night when she noticed a woman staring at her intensely. The woman was sitting between two old men. The girl kept looking away, but the woman staring never broke eye contact. It started to freak the girl out. At the next stop, a tall man in a trench coat boarded. He sat down right next to the girl. The woman who was staring paid no attention to the man who just boarded and just kept staring at the girl. Now this really creeped out the girl. The two men that the woman was sitting between never once looked in her direction. The girl then pretended not to notice, but each time she looked, the woman was still staring at her. At the next stop, the man in the trench coat got up to leave when suddenly he grabbed the girl's arm and dragged her out of the subway. The doors shut and the subway took off. The girl then started screaming for help, but then the man said, "Calm down. I just saved your life. I didn't mean to scare you, but I had to get you off that subway." The woman that was staring at you was dead, and the two men beside her were holding her up.
Yo, what's up?
Really?
These are the scariest unsolved mysteries in the world. Part 1. The Villisca Axe Murders. On the night of June 10th, 1912, in the quiet town of Villisca, Iowa, the Moore family returned from their night at church. The two parents, plus their 4 children, plus 2 kids from the neighboring home that were spending the night, decided to settle down and go to sleep. The next morning, the neighbors found all 8 of them hacked to death with an axe. There were no signs of forced entry, and only one child was found outside of their bed. It's believed that the murderer climbed into the attic while the family was at church, and once the family returned home and settled down to rest, he came downstairs and then committed his crime. But get this, the only clue was a pile of cigarette butts in the attic, nothing more than that. There have been several suspects, including a suspicious business partner, an unsuspected lover, and even a traveling preacher, but none for sure. Obviously, this case has been left unsolved for years, but the house is still standing, and is supposedly haunted by the family who got murdered and the person who murdered the family. But the thing is, you can stay there overnight. What do you think?
I would not stay there overnight. I said, no. Spend that long, they couldn't solve it, man. I told you that's like one of my worst fears, bro. You're in a house that big and you don't know who's in it. Nah. That's an added secret.
Normal looking photos with disturbing backstories. This might look like a normal photo of a statue, but the reality is terrifying. The statue is of a girl named Sadako, and she was a victim of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima when she was 2. At 11, she was diagnosed with leukemia with less than 1 year to live. In the hospital, her father told her a story about how paper cranes can grant a wish to whoever makes them. So she set a goal to make 1,000 paper cranes. Unfortunately, she passed away before reaching that number, so her friends finished the 1,000 paper cranes and buried them with her. This next one is even more disturbing. The woman in this photo is Myra Hindley, and the man who took this photo is Ian Brady, and they had taken the lives of more than 5 missing children. What's even more messed up is in this photo, Myra is posing at the gravesite of her victims. Follow for more.
Urban legends caught on camera.
He was dashing across that field.
Part 3. A chimpanzee from Zambia was observed wearing a piece of grass in her ear for no apparent reason. After other members of her group started copying her, researchers soon realized that this was the first fashion statement observed in the wild. In Moscow, Russia, packs of stray dogs have been known to send out a smaller, cuter member to beg for food. They apparently understand that it will be more successful than a bigger, less attractive member of the pack. Here's some incredibly disturbing footage of a raven speaking human.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
I hate it. Octopuses are considered to be the smartest invertebrate animals on the planet. On 3 separate occasions, Otto the octopus caused a power outage at his aquarium by climbing to the edge of his tank and shooting a jet of water at a bright light. He's been seen juggling hermit crabs, throwing rocks at the glass, and renovating the surroundings of his tank.
You trying to get out, bro. Trying to do a prison break, man. I've heard when even octopus like open up the top of something. Like when they crammed into something, bro, they can open up the top to it.
Out are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night.
Being buried alive accidentally occurred so often that people invented safety coffins. In the Middle Ages, people used to eat mummies for medical purposes. It's the main reason we don't have a lot of mummies left today. In the United States, there are more vacant homes than homeless people. Did you know that the actress Glenn Close was raised in a cult? The Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland used to have real skeletons as props. In 1976, a TV crew realized one of the hanging bodies in the Laugh in the Dark ride was indeed a real body by accidentally breaking it. Women in the 18th century used lead as makeup. This is the first chainsaw. It was invented by 2 Scottish doctors. And it was invented for childbirth. Yeah, there's a lot more. Like for part 4.
Let's go through their head.
Skinwalkers. They are said to be powerful witches and medicine men. They can even change their form to any animal they desire, including humans. But they mainly change into deer, wolves, and coyotes. The scary part is they say if you see one, they can steal your face and even your last scream for help. You might think this is like a folklore or a tale. People actually believe these are real. The scary part is there's actual videos of people seeing oddly walking humans screaming help in the middle of nowhere. See, they say skinwalkers pretend to be humans in distress, and if they're calling out for help, they're just trying to lure you in. That's when they take your life and use your voice and your look to catch their next gullible victim. A man's wife wasn't even home, but yet somebody was calling him to come downstairs in his wife's voice.
No, I don't think I will.
If you want me to go out in the middle of the field, at least shapeshift and look like Rihanna or Beyonce. I'm making a mess, but this look good. I'll be there in a minute. 30 seconds flat. Naked. Very naked. Maybe even Lizzo. Let's light this candle.
What? I noticed she's always eating somewhere when you're seeing those videos, bro. You make me hungry. That's an edit, bro. Like I say, I see any edits. Spot them out. Ooh, what the hell? It's like moving back and forth. Oh, what the? Whew. Oh god, they got me. Hit the jets just like I would, bro. What?
You disturbing legends from around the world.
Honey's. Where the mermaids originate from, bro?
These are a few dumb things that we all believed as kids. Look, please don't tell me I'm the only dumb child and that you guys also believe this shit, okay? Or else I'm gonna feel really left out.
Okay.
Anyway, let's begin. Number 1, believing our parents that when they said if you had food and then went swimming, you would get a fucking cramp? Yeah, that's a load of fucking horseshit. Where the fuck did they get this information from? And why did we believe them? Search it up, it's not true at all. You can eat as much as you want and go swimming, no cramps. Number 2, I thought that red ants were bad and black ants were good. That just isn't true though, is it? Like, yeah, obviously red ants are more aggressive, but they don't pose any more threats than black ants do. They're the same! As a kid, I was an idiot, alright? Number 3, that whenever it was dark, something was always in the dark out to get us. Whenever we went to sleep, if it's dark, fuck me. Going to pee late at night, fuck me. Being the last one to turn off all the lights, fuck no. Yeah, no wonder kids nowadays have PTSD, man. Fuck me.
Oh,
Number 4, okay, this one's probably just me, but I thought doctors couldn't die.
I thought because, you know, they knew all about the medical field, they were smart people, they were just like immortals. It's like your parents always made them seem like such heroes. So I always thought they couldn't die, but eventually I realized that they can. And last, but definitely not least, at number 5, please don't tell me I am the only one with this one. But I thought that when people turned exactly 100 years old, that they would die. Okay, look, I was a stupid child. But I played a lot of video games and I thought it was like reaching the level 100, you know? Like, that's the end. Game over. Please tell me I'm not the only one.
Creepy last.
Okay, maybe the last one, it probably got me when I was a younger kid. Yeah, you used to think like the older you got, 100. That's like that was the cap limit. Like you could go past that, man. You was spitting on the last one. I believed in the last one though. So.
Words people said right before dying. Registered nurse Shirley Smith said that she had a very rich patient who was a true Satanist that was dying of cancer. The patient had upside-down crosses and a Satan's Bible by her bedside. Shirley said that she will never forget what happened. It was the middle of the summer, and yet it was so cold and dark in her room that you couldn't even stand it, even in the middle of the day. She said that it got so evil feeling in there that she had to call a priest to pray with her and her aides before they would even enter the room. When the patient passed away, she had not spoken in over 24 hours. And then all of a sudden, she sat straight up and said, "Satan, take me." And then she fell back on the bed. Shirley said that after she passed, the room got bright and extremely warm. Shockingly, when they moved the patient's body, they had to get rid of the mattress because where her body had been, it looked burnt. And the most horrible smell was emanating from the mattress cover. Needless to say, Shirley went to confession immediately because she did not want an evil spirit around her. A nurse said that one of their patients had a serious recurrence and had to be admitted. Over the course of several nights, he had become quite upset during rounds. He kept asking for his wallet, saying that he had to pay the ferryman. The medical student on rotation in the department took a quarter out of his pocket and put it in the patient's hand. The patient then dropped the coin into the cup on his bedstand and calmed down. Later that night, he passed away quietly. The nurse asked what happened. The medical student, who remembered his Greek mythology, said that the patient had to pay Charon, the ferryman, to be taken across the river Styx. A nurse said that he was doing rounds at a hospital. There was one two-patient room, and one of the patients was a very loud and confused woman who could be quite a handful. On this particular night, she had a roommate who had passed away shortly before the nurse entered the room. She was DNR, so there was no code blue. When he entered the room, he noticed that the elderly lady, who was usually very loud and confused, was sitting quietly with her hands crossed neatly upon her lap. Something was different, and there was this look of serenity on her face. She asked him in a voice that seemed much younger and clearer than before, "Did you see them, young man? They're so beautiful." He said, "No, ma'am, there's no one else here." She said, "They're right next to you, talking to Mrs. Banneker. The angels. They're so beautiful." He said that he instantly felt every hair of his body stand up and an electric tingle course up and down his spine. "They're not here for me this time," she said sadly.
Horror movies coming out in 2022 that you probably didn't know about. First up, this movie has a really unique story. It's called The Black Phone, and it's about a boy who gets kidnapped by a masked man and locked in a soundproof room. But then he realizes there's a phone on the wall where he can hear the voices of all the masked man's previous victims, and they're determined to help him escape. This movie was also made by the same people who made Sinister, which is another great horror movie. But next up, we have Don't Worry, Darling. This one's about a 1950s housewife living with her husband in an experimental utopian community until she realizes her husband is hiding a terrifying secret. This movie has an all-star cast. It includes Harry Styles and Florence Pugh, and is directed by Olivia Wilde. I just know this movie is gonna be good. Last up, if you watch the movie Orphan, there's a prequel coming this month. Orphan First Kill is about Esther's first time pretending to be an orphan. Do you remember how they mentioned that the family that adopted Esther before all died in a house fire? Well, this movie is about how all that happened. Follow for more.
You guys know I don't check out scary movies, man, but if any of the seekers seen it, you can tell me down below how they were. That's an edit. See through that. Okay, they said we're gonna be moving in this video. this an edit? That playpen is moving, bro. What the fuck?
This man went to hell for 23 minutes. Listen to how he describes the demons he saw in hell.
I was standing beneath this tunnel, like cavern walls that were sending upward. And all along the cavern walls were demons. Some were only 2 and 3 feet tall. Some were 12 and 13 feet tall. But every one of them were twisted and deformed and grotesque. The most hideous looking creatures. And I noticed there were snakes crawling all over everything. And then I looked and I was standing on a bed of maggots, just solid maggots crawling all over everything and everybody. But remember, Jesus said, where their worm dies not and the fire is not quenched. And he used the word maggot. And Isaiah 14:11 says, where the maggot will be spread under thee and the worm will cover thee.
This is no joke. Hell is a real place. Repent of your sins today and turn to Jesus so you never go there.
Did you see it?
Disturbing facts that will ruin your life. The average person walks past 36 murders in their lifetime. During World War II, Japan bombed China with fleas infected with the bubonic plague. Heartbreak can trigger a massive flood of emotions that can cause fatal heart attacks. People's general happiness peaks at 21 and does not reach that level again until they retire. People who stay up late at night have more psychopathic tendencies than those who sleep early.
Really? So if you're a night owl, you're a psycho?
Welcome back to another episode of Animal Facts They Don't Teach You in School. The first animal on today's list is the living alarm clock, chickens. Did you know these egg shitters are more closely related to the T-Rex than they are birds? Yeah, you heard that right. Chickens are pretty damn closely related to the roid lizard. Have you ever wondered why chickens walk around and they always look fucking confused? They're like... Well, that's because the design of a chicken's eyes are A, really complicated, and B, can't really decide what they want to do. That's because both of their eyes do completely different things. One is nearsighted and one is farsighted, and their eyes also see more colors than we do. I would imagine these feathery cocks constantly have a headache. And speaking of heads, a chicken by the name of Mike in 1947 once lived 18 months without a head. First of all, who names a chicken Mike? And second of all, why was he headless for that long? Alright, next animal. One of the very few animals to evolve like a real-life Pokemon, the caterpillar. And I bet you didn't know this, but caterpillars dance to music.
It's right here, but for whatever reason, when you talk...
Hello! And unlike most people, caterpillars aren't very picky with what they listen to, because they'll dance to anything if it's loud enough. Studies show that this BBC with hair in all the wrong places will dance to anything loud enough because it associates it with the predator and it's trying to ward it off by wiggling around. I don't eat caterpillars, but I feel like that makes you look more appetizing. Now previously I mentioned caterpillars evolve, some to moths, some to butterflies. Now you may think to yourself, that's a pretty good life. A, now you can fly around and get food and avoid predators, and B, you look less like my genitals, but life's not that great when they evolve. The fact of the matter is, many moth species don't live more than 24 hours, and that's because they're born without a mouth, therefore they can't eat and they basically just starve. Their only job is to reproduce. Up next on today's list is an animal that seems to spend most of its life struggling, the sloth. Besides looking like my creepy old neighbor, every time they defecate a third of their body weight. I can't imagine that's an easy thing to do. And aside from releasing demons every time they have to go to the bathroom, it also happens once per week, and it's life-threatening. That's right, every time the animal embodiment of molasses decides it has to go to the bathroom, which is once per week, it climbs all the way down to the bottom of the tree and digs a hole to go into. So now not only are you pushing out demons, but you're also worried about predators. And you can't move very fast in case one comes along. But don't worry, they're not totally useless. Because for some reason, they can hold their breath double the amount of time as a dolphin. Dolphins are about 20 minutes, sloths are about 40. Evolution really handed my boy the shit end of the stick, but for some reason he's a professional scuba diver. And did I mention sloths are basically designed to fall out of trees, up to 100 feet without any injury, and they do it about once a week. Their body has evolved to survive these falls instead of evolving not to fall. My guy seems to work off the same logic as the human population. I'm starting to think monkeys weren't actually our ancestors. Sloths were. All I got. Peace.
That's crazy, especially about the part the sloth.